All right, at this time, we will go ahead and adjourn our closed session and reconvene in open session. We have one item to report out from our closed session. In closed session, the board retained and directed legal counsel to initiate or intervene in a legal action, social media litigation by a vote of 4 board members with 1 board member recusing themselves. The action, the defendants, and the other particulars shall, once formally commenced, be disclosed to any person upon inquiry, unless to do so would jeopardize the district's ability to effectuate service of process on one or more unserved parties, or that to do so would jeopardize the district's ability to conclude existing settlement negotiations to its advantage. The members voted as follows. Ms. Shogun was aye. Ms. Phillips recused herself. Ms. Collins-Coleman, aye. Ms. Hoxie, aye. And myself, aye. Thank you. At this time, we will go ahead and all join in together to do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someday.
And I'm excited that we're going to start our meeting out this evening with a school program highlight, the Diversibility Awareness presentation.
Okay, well, thank you. So Dr. Nierheim.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited that so many came for some And I'm really excited that we have some guest speakers here. So Diversibility Awareness Week, our kickoff was October 16th through the 20th. One of the things we put into place last year was instead of DAW happening sporadically throughout the district, we'd have one kickoff week, and then DAW, Diversibility Awareness activities, could continue throughout the year at all the sites. And with that, I'm going to ask Mrs. Alicia Keenan to come on up and share a little bit about the history of DAW. We can just stand right here.
Perfect.
Super informal.
So my family moved to Orinda in the summer of 2016, along with my 5 children. My son Simon has a diagnosis of Down syndrome. He was entering 1st grade in Sleepy Hollow. We were very welcomed into this community. We really were. Being here a couple of months, learning the ins and outs, it became clear to me that there might need to be some education about disabilities for the staff, for the students, for the community. I was speaking to Simon's inclusion specialist about some outdated language that we were hearing, well-meaning but outdated. And she said, we might need a well-meaning volunteer, which was a sentence I heard often when I moved to this community. I worked with then the site principal at Sleepy Hollow. DAW started in the spring of 2017 with one 20-minute workshop in each classroom, literally the last week of school of 2017. And it was very well received. The teachers really embraced it. The students were accepting and the parents really were grateful. The following school year, we expanded from one 20-minute conversation to a couple of activities in the week. The following year, the teachers asked us to move it to the fall, and we started adding books to the library. We started adding assemblies and speakers. And then we started collaborating with the other school sites. And then last year was the first year everybody did it on the same week in all the sites.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Super exciting. One of our parents.
Next slide. Okay.
Not quite yet. Cam Hall helped craft the definition of our diversibility, and normally I wouldn't read off a slide, but I'm going to, just in case not everybody can see. Diversibility Awareness Week is an annual district-wide educational campaign celebrating and highlighting disability, neurodiversity, and the unique abilities and perspectives that make our community stronger. We continue to engage in a series of learning opportunities aimed at raising awareness and acceptance of all abilities. And with the next slide, We want to tell you the components that can be found all over the district during the week of. Very excited about our freeway banner. Please raise your hand if you saw the freeway banner. Be on the lookout next year. It's on the freeway. We also this year had posters in schools. Raise your hand if you saw DAW posters in schools. Fantastic. Raise your other hand if you hit the QR code to find out more information. Thank you. Each school began the Monday with an inclusion lesson. They were geared TK through second grade, third through fifth, sixth through eighth. Then we had our traveling access tools showcase, which was a new element we had this year, where students were able to look at some tools, and I don't want to give too much away because we have a guest speaker. We also had our hero showcase. I did those out of order just to see if you're paying attention. Hero showcase is highlighting celebrities, athletes, scientists who have disabilities and having some explanation about who they are, how they are able to have incredibly successful lives. And then finally, we had read-alouds and videos that teachers could choose from. We had continued to expand our resource library of titles, and we've had many parents and teachers and librarians helping us expand that. So, school-specific activities. Del Rey and Glorietta did a school read aloud called Move Together. Sleepy Hollow had a movie night where they showed the movie Wonder. Wagner Ranch did a whole series on respecting abilities. And OIS had a KOIS student spotlight on both a teacher and a student. We've already gotten to hear the history of DA, and now I'd like to invite Aaliyah Deland up to tell us a bit about what she does with her TK class and introduce the read aloud. Sadly, she's not going to read it to us tonight, but she'll tell us a bit about how it went with the classes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Aaliyah. This is my first year in the district, first year teaching TK. It's been really awesome, and I want to talk a little bit about the types of activities I do kind of just all day, every day in TK to build inclusion into our classroom community. One thing that I have found to be so much fun, but B, also really impactful for the students is incorporating sign language in pretty much everything that we do at this point for, silent signals to have their needs met. But then I'm also finding, and shout out to Ms. Lehman, we covered this in a PD session about incorporating sign language and learning vocabulary. And so the example I always give is, right, if you're learning a vocabulary word and you have a mnemonic, it's really easy to remember that vocabulary. And sign language, while it's not oral, has a lot of mnemonics. And so I taught the kids the other day, right, when to learn and sign language to learn, and you're picking something up and you're putting it in your brain. So to learn. And not forever, you're going to know that to learn is pick something up and put it in your brain. And that's what just one example of how we use it in TK. The book that what Glorietta read is We Move Together, which is all about the diverse ways in which people move around the world. And I read it as an introduction to the Disabilities Showcase to kind of introduce some of the tools that the kids might have been seeing in the showcase room. Just a lot of tools that help people move around the world in different ways.
Thank you so much. Now I'm excited to introduce our fifth grader from Sleepy Hollow, Lexi. Come on up. We're going to kind of face everybody at the same time. It's crazy. So, Lexi, you made a video for the district, didn't you?
Yeah, it was me and my friend Callie.
And what were you making a video about?
It was about DAW access tools people with disabilities use to help communicate and such.
Excellent. Now, were there tables laid out?
Oh, yeah, it had different tools like fidgets.
Fidgets, walking sticks, and looks to me right there, you're holding maybe a description that was next to one of them. Was this one your favorite?
Yeah, it was speech to text. It was a computer and you press a button and then it would turn it instant.
And you like that one because?
Oh, I think it's fun.
Exactly. Does anybody have any questions for Lexi?
We'll make sure to send the video to the board so they can see it.
Thank you, that would be
Yeah.
great.
All right, can we give her?
Lexi, do you just mind passing that around so the board members can see that over here?
Right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, pass the book
Sure.
around.
Great.
The other end.
Yeah, it's-
I follow directions. Next, I am really excited to have two 8th graders from OIS. We're going to start with Alex. You want to come on up?
Last week was a chance for our student-run TV station, KOIS, to show off the contributions that people with diverse abilities make both on and off campus. One of the people we profiled was Sam Drazen. Sam has a disability we highlighted in the story, which is known as Treacher-Collins syndrome, a genetic disorder of facial dysmorphism, but it doesn't slow him down. In fact, Sam lives enthusiastically. We should take this message of inclusivity to school campuses around the country. I think Sam's testimony proves to people with diverse abilities and those who support them that they have the same feelings, wants, and needs as all of us. And they should be embraced as an important part of our school community.
Next, we have Grayson. Eighth graders.
In the same way, Giles' profile shows that students with diverse abilities are all around us and just want to be treated the same way as every other student. Giles is on the autism spectrum and has a compelling way of getting other students at OIS to understand his condition. However, he's more concerned about his classmates not accepting him because they don't understand autism. I think Giles' appearance in our KOIS broadcast went a long way to help all of our school be more understanding and supportive of kids with autism.
I hope that as we continue to grow this program, we'll be highlighting more and more. I really want to thank Mrs. Keenan, Ms. Deland, and especially our students, presenters, not only for all you do at school every day, but for being here and presenting for us tonight. We're hoping everybody is going to be waiting with bated breath to see the banner, use the QR code, and find out all the new activities we're going to fold into next year. Mark your calendar, October 14th through 18th, 2024. Thanks,
Questions, Eric? Are there any questions?
Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody for coming and presenting to us. I love that we have 1 week now that's dedicated as a district. Hearing the evolution of all this is, something that I really appreciate. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you to our students. It's so important that we acknowledge, differences for all of our students and accept everyone for who they are and celebrate and, include them in everything. So, really appreciate you being here tonight. I don't know if there's any questions or comments from.
Great job, everyone.
Yeah.
I would love to see the district take the next step and making DAW year-round, integrating it into, our everyday. So it's not just a week. That is a long-term play, but I would love to see it.
All right, well, thank you
All
again.
right, everybody, thanks.
At this, you're welcome to stay if you want to.
The presenters.
Presenters, or
Yeah.
you're welcome. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. At this time, we will move into our general public comment period. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, the public may comment on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. For items on the agenda, the public may comment at the time the board considers the agenda item. Items not on the agenda, the public may comment under item 6A, public comment. The Board of Trustees requests that individuals who would like to address the Board of Trustees on an item do so by filling out a request to address the OUSD school board card and turning it into the superintendent prior to the agenda item. Cards are available at the meeting. Comments are limited to not more than 5 minutes. Groups are asked to limit their comments to a total of 5 minutes. The board shall limit the total time of public comment to 20 minutes. To comply with the Brown Act, the board may listen to comments from the speakers but can neither discuss nor take action on the issues presented. And I see that we have one public comment here under item 6A, Vicki Hilty.
Just give me 1 second, I've lost.
The
If
timer.
You can just give me 1 moment. That'd be great. Okay, we're good.
My name is Vicki Hilty. I am a teacher at Sleepy Hollow School. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the OEA membership. And we just really want to thank the board and the trustee, the school board and the district leadership and the whole community for supporting teachers. We're just so grateful that in Orinda, attracting and retaining excellent teachers is a top priority. We value our positive relationship with the board and district leadership. It means that we can trust that our district will do everything it can to prioritize this year's historic 8.22 COLA from the state for teacher salaries and benefits. As a parent of 3 OUSD alumni and a community member myself and a 23-year veteran teacher in Orinda, I especially appreciate the importance of preserving the excellence of Orinda schools. When teachers, parents, and the community agree, as we all do, that Orinda students deserve the best educators, even a national teacher shortage cannot slow us down. So from all of us, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here tonight. Actually, it's really wonderful to have this participation at our board meeting, and we're very happy to see all of you. We do not have any additional public comment under this item, so we will go ahead and move into our action items. Action item A is single plans for student achievement.
Oh, mine is.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Here you go. That's the, your personal.
I'm trying, you guys.
In case you haven't been able to get on.
You want me to log into that now?
You don't have to, whenever you.
Okay, so we are.
Maybe we should.
Are we ready to?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, how are you? So we're gonna present on single plans for student achievement. So what we started doing, thank you to all our principals who are here.
Yes.
Really appreciate it for all of you for being here. So what you have in front of you, what you're acting upon tonight are the actual single plans that are attached, which every single school site has their individual plans. But our principals are going to present, kind of give you a highlight of the goals together. So they'll do a presentation together, and our goals are actually aligned across the district, and they're aligned to our strategic plan and our LCAP. So with that, I will let you know how I'll kick it off to you guys.
Okay, so hello. That was Aida just did the
Oh.
first couple.
But you'll do it better.
So the single parent student achievement is also known as the SIPSA, or informally the site plan. And last year, we changed it so that all 5 school sites would be aligned with regard to their goals, their site plan goals. What's different are the action items that support those goals. Obviously, clearly, the elementaries are somewhat aligned, but of course, because traditionally and historically, there have been programs at each site. Sometimes the initiatives and the action items are different. But for the most part, what we did last year, and we were really happy, we were really pleased with ourselves. We aligned, I mean, as a district, we decided, leadership team decided, and then we all met to align the site plan goals, or the SIPSA goals, to the district's LCAP goals, which support the district's strategic directions, which in turn support the mission statement. So so that's basically what this slide shows. So the next slide shows the 3 LCAP goals for the district. The first one is student-centered learning. The second is community of belonging, and the third is dedicated staff. And while it might look different for the district with regard to, for example, hiring and recruiting highly qualified staff, training, providing PPD, and also we can support those goals at the site. So the next one is you, Patsy. So as Aida mentioned and Stacy mentioned, that we are committed to being in alignment. And so the LCAP goals actually are the same as our site goals. And again, all of our site goals are the same. So we're all consistent, working on student learning, community of belonging, and dedicated staff. You'll hear more details about each of those with Maple, Megan, and Eric behind me. I wanted to talk a little bit about the process we go through before we get to the board level. The process is similar to each site. The staff gets together, we look at those goals, and we determine what will those action steps be. As you may remember, these are the same as the LCAP goals, so we've had similar site goals from years past. And so a lot of our action steps might just be to continue with the good work that we've been starting, or it might be another initiative. Either way, each site gets to decide that, and then we create a brainstorming jam board or a chart on the staff room, depending on how we like to communicate with each other. And we determine what our action steps might be. Those go to the site council, and the site council then, which is made up of parents and staff, we go through with a fine-tooth comb and determine what those action steps will be for each site. And then the site council approves and moves it on to this level. So I'm passing the baton on to Maple, who will talk about the first goal.
Just rotate off.
Okay.
So our first goal focuses on student-centered learning. So teaching and learning, really at the heart of all of us as educators. What we do, what we come to school and come to do our jobs, is we're looking at student learning, and we're looking at our teaching practices as well. And so kind of what Patsy was mentioning, these goals have stayed the same as last year, but our action steps are tweaked a little bit. And some of these action steps are ongoing. As we are shifting to a PLC, or professional learning community culture, each of our school sites are really participating in this ongoing cycle of identifying what we want students to know, and then coming together as our grade level teams, as department teams, looking at then how are we going to assess and figure out what students are learning, and then what are we going to do about it. And so one piece that we really tackled last year was identifying essential standards. So that's something that moving forward to this year, we're piggybacking or taking all that work that was done last year, identifying essential standards. At the elementary level, we started at math and then moved towards ELA. I know this work was also done at OAS, looking at various departments and the standards that align with those subjects as well. So we have some great starting points on what we want students to know, identifying those points. We are now kind of at the stage where we're unpacking them, looking at specific learning targets, and then assessing how do we know students are learning? What are we using in terms of common formative assessments as grade level teams to identify and then be able to respond quickly so that we have that ongoing data. And ways that we can respond are through collaboration and talking about instructional strategies, what's working, what's not working, thinking about strategic groupings for ELA and math are kind of our priorities at the elementary level, and then providing intervention and then appropriate challenge as well for our students. So again, this is an ongoing, it's a never ending cycle, but we do have work that we started last year that we're continuing and building off of
as we move towards this year as well, or through this year.
And our next goal is the community of belonging. So making sure that our schools are safe and supportive learning communities where our students feel connected at all of our sites. So a lot of this work, again, is building off what we did last year with our wellness centers and our wellness counselors and building upon that work that we've done. I think we all very much value our wellness counselors and the wellness centers that we have, and seeing how well that they've been built over the year and the work that our wellness counselors are doing with students. It's also continuing the work of our SEL programs and the teaching that we're doing with students. And then a part that elementary started this year, but I know OIS did last year, is our committee work, where we're having teachers and kind of some shared leadership there working together on kind of 3 different committees, one of which is climate and culture, behavior, and diversity and inclusion. But also working with those committees to how can we help our students feel a sense of belonging here at school. So we have aligned our time as elementary, and I know OIS is continuing the work that we started last year with having teachers be part of those conversations and committees and leadership with that as well. And then I think the next slide shows our wellness centers and just kind of what those are looking like at each of our school sites. And OIS's, we can't wait to see when construction is done. And then I think there's one more of just our social emotional learning and the different activities that we're doing in school-wide. So great. And now Eric.
It's fun to see the through line of all this, because I'm going to reiterate some of the key points that have already been made. Certainly without dedicated staff, what could we accomplish? And dedicated staff drive our student-centered learning, they drive our community of belonging. And wonderful staff here tonight. Just want to honor your presence and your commitment. The goal is up here, but the key work is around supporting our collaboration and our professional development. Certainly, we've continued the structures of honoring weekly collaboration as well as time in our professional learning communities. Also, that valuable collaboration time that was mentioned before. A neat twist to this year is investment in the professional development of our grade level facilitators. These are staff who go back to their teacher teams and help facilitate, lead those professional learning communities. There's empowerment there, there's ownership there. We're all at the table, principals with teachers learning together, bringing that learning back to our teams. It's been really exciting. In addition, we certainly want to empower distributed leadership, and we do that through our community work. Having teachers step up to lead those communities, have a bigger imprint, a bigger say in the direction that we're taking as a school. So we've been thrilled about the investment in our professional development collaboration, and couldn't do it without our dedicated staff. Any questions that we can clarify?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, I know there's a lot in the other supporting documents that were attached to the agenda as well, but I appreciate how you synthesized it for us and, tied it to, our commission and strategic directions and everything else. Are there specific questions or comments from members of the board? I know a lot of work went into that.
I have a few. First of all, this was a ton of work. I'm sure it is every year. But thank you. And I also really appreciate that it is aligned, number one. Really appreciate it. I think that makes sense. And that it's down to 3 that you can all kind of keep eyes on. So with that in mind, do you plan to measure success of these 3 goals? People look to me like, I was going to ask that question. Or if that has come up in your head, or how are you going to monitor progress? Or are we moving this way? Or does this one need to come back next year or in a different way or evolve? Have you thought about that?
I mean, I know it's come up, I didn't know you were going to ask that. It has come up even at our site council meeting recently. We have a new kind of makeup. And so a lot of understanding, how do we measure the progress? I think with the first goal is student-centered learning. We have a lot of solid data, so we can reflect at least at the start of the year in terms of looking at CASP data. That's one point. But what we're really looking at too is like that ongoing. I feel like the academic piece is
the best or one of the easier goals in terms of measuring. Like we can look at those common formative assessments. We can look at unit assessments. We can look at writing on demands, like all of those natural summative points, but now also weaving in more formative measures as well. I feel like that one for us, we can track a little bit more easier because it's more that real-time data versus the summative data at the end of a unit or looking at CAST, which does have its value. But I think one direction we're definitely heading towards are those formative assessments. When it comes to things like our second goal, looking at the social community of belonging, finding where we can administer like school climate surveys, whether it be a pulse survey, a quick brief survey, to hear our student voices on how they feel, whether, in terms of connected to school. That's one way. And we've talked about using our Healthy Kids survey as well, but that tends to be a little bit more summative than formative. We don't get that towards the end. Feel free to chime in.
Wellness counselors.
Yeah, I was gonna say, also talking with our wellness counselors, we all meet with our wellness counselors once a week where we're going over students and things that we're seeing and looking at that data and tracking that as well. So just looking at the types of things that we're seeing from students and tracking that and how we're dealing with it and coming up with interventions and things like that. So.
I was just gonna add, there are different groups that are responsible in my head for the different goals. So the first one, Mabel was talking about the common formative assessments that the teachers are looking at or task data that we're looking at. That first goal, I feel like, is largely the teacher teams, the PLTs, the professional learning teams that are looking at those, at student learning. And then historically, at least at OIS, that second goal, the community of belonging, has been one of the functions of the site council. The site council does monitor and come up with initiatives and develops plans for the site plan. So that's one thing at OIS that we focus a lot on. So we look at the Healthy Kids data, like Mabel said, or climate surveys, or other pieces of data to help us with that. And then the dedicated staff.
That's like the output, right? That's the output of the first two goals, like us, the work that goes into them and us being able to measure anything in terms of those first two goals are largely 100% due to that dedicated staff building and providing time, growing our capacities, learning together. So it's almost a reflection of goal 3 is what we see from.
And teachers and staff are also surveyed at the end of PD days. We're always looking at the feedback.
You've heard this phrase, ongoing, never ending. There is no finish line. But we embrace that. I think teachers could actually do that. Yeah, there we go. But that's really, from the big picture, the macro and the micro, that's what we're constantly doing, always with our eyes on the goals, but really how do we get moving forward is with that constant dedication to what it is that we're doing this week, this month, next month, and that's, I think, how we're moving forward with all of these goals.
The second goal in particular, I just want to point out that ties perfectly to, I feel like, a meeting almost a year ago when, like, I think we had a wellness presentation and it was just kind of like, we have these wellness counselors, and like that was kind of like it, right? Because everyone was just starting out and we were talking about collecting data and doing it. So I love that those two things are together and everybody's sort of on the same page about where you want to go with that goal in particular, and the other two as well, but that one just makes a lot of sense to me. My second question then relates to how these goals are shared with the dedicated staff or parents or the broader community, because it really is aligned. It's very aligned across the schools, which I think is awesome, and it should be shared and celebrated. People should know that you're working towards the same thing. How has it been communicated? Will it be communicated, or how do you see that coming across?
So part of the process is we go over with our site council, we kind of go over things, we take feedback, but then the second part of that is we go over with staff. So we go over with the staff what our goals are, we get feedback from them, we then synthesize that data, and then we share it again with our site council, and then again with our staff to show them kind of what everybody has come up with together. Most of us use the JAM board to gather ideas for both staff and our site council. And then I know I shared it out, or we shared out that we had it approved. Yeah.
It hasn't been approved.
Yeah.
That's the next thing.
That's the next thing, that we shared out.
By site.
Yeah, that we shared out that the site council, but then once it's shared out again. I would love if everybody looked at all 32 pages.
I know.
They read it right after the LCAP, Megan.
Right, it's a good point to just keep reminding what are free, because they're free goals. And
Yeah.
that is very,
Underlined.
like, easy to digest. And, which is really nice as well. So I think those are, it's good feedback for us to think about how do we communicate that out, not just our staff, but our larger community. But I think we could work together.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I just had one more thing to mention. It's related because it's in your plans, but I did read through them, by the way.
Oh.
And Eric's and I read through yours, and you analyzed your state data. You're referring back to 2019 and actually looking at students above standard and noticing the percentage changes there. And I'm saying it because in being in board meetings or as a parent trying to understand, like, we're a very high performing district, celebrate all that all the time. But Eric, you went and kind of noticed, like, wait, we're sliding in this above standard category, like why or in what strands? And that detail, I really appreciate that you called it, and it kind of just, that nuance is really appreciated. I think it's great that you went all the way there.
Right, it just reiterates the work of the professional learning community, to do something about it, right, to take action, develop great change agents.
Yeah, I just actually had one thing, because Katie asked a lot of great questions, but just picking up on the first one, really about the wellness centers and kind of what you're seeing there. I think, all of us, when we saw the Healthy Kids survey, last spring, a lot of issues to address. And I was just curious, and if it's premature to ask this question, that's fine, but are you, the first, I guess, third of the year, are you seeing any certain themes of issues that are arising or ways in which they're being, in types of interventions that seem to be working that you can share from talking to the wellness counselors or?
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Every classroom has what's called a calm corner or a peace corner, and I think the difference between last year and this year, last year, the wellness counselors, and we have a peace corner, and that was about it. But within that last year and into this year, it's been well utilized, and so much so that it's really a part of the architecture of the classroom, and I can only see that getting even better throughout.
Like in terms of curriculum, our wellness counselors are making more, they're consciously going into classrooms and doing more whole group lessons. And I know for TK and K and First, our wellness counselor worked with each of them to either do a station model or a whole group lesson on zones of regulation. So building some of that common language on how we can express our feelings, what zone we're in, and how do we, go from one zone to another. So really starting early off and going into classrooms and establishing that language with students, I think was a great proactive move in terms of giving students language and setting that tone in the classrooms. We are seeing kind of specific things that pop up within cohorts or at just within Calgary, but it seems like sportsmanship. So again, working with our wellness counselor, do we want to do groups? Do we want to do whole group lessons? One cohort we're doing whole group lessons, another group is deciding to do small groups. So lots of flexibility, and I really feel like our programs are getting a lot stronger in terms of utilizing the student data, adapting the way we're addressing them, like more in the moment versus reflectively or with time elapsed.
Any further questions from members of the board?
I have a couple, please.
I appreciate the collaboration and the care. It's very important by that, and working together with the professional learning communities, the teachers and everything, and reading through the report, how you all have synthesized it, as everyone has said, but would really love to see, next year, the outcome of all that data that I know you're gathering right now. That'll be interesting to see how it will affect, wellness specifically. So thank you.
Hi, I had a couple questions. So about, a year and a half ago, we changed the schedule to give the common planning time on Wednesdays. And so I just would love to hear how that is benefiting you as principals, our students, our teachers.
I'll speak first because this afternoon we had our instructional council meeting, which is our chairs. Two of them are here. And we were talking about how valuable that time is, that extra hour, 50 minutes. But it's back to back now with common planning time. So some of our professional learning students
we'll continue on the same road during that planning time, because when you're, rolling up your sleeves and getting, digging into it, 50 minutes is not really nothing. It's nice to be able to continue. It's teacher's choice, of course, but it's been really great. We've been structured it, even better than last year, because it's like we've built upon what the learning and as you were referring to the learning with our teachers at the TAPS network that we're part of now, and coming back and figuring out how we're going to use that time and make it really effective. So it's been really great.
High percentage.
Elementary too, we've all kind of aligned our times as well. So if it's like a staff meeting day, we're all doing staff meeting. If we're doing committee work, we're all doing committee work. If we're doing PLC work, we're all doing PLC work. It's just been really nice to align across the district and to align with OAS now having the same day. It just feels like everybody's doing the work together, and we're all, it's very valuable time, so.
And back to alignment, you'll have grade level teachers who are meeting together as a grade level, but they also know that another site is doing the same thing. And so let's Zoom together, or let's have a conference call so that we can again align. So that this constant work is ever evolving every single.
That was going to be one of my questions, is how often the alignment is across school sites during that time. I mean,
If you were to ask a teacher, I'm going to say that not enough. They would like to collaborate even more, but Wednesday is the opportunity for them to do just that. And then given the time that we have to offer them, we try and do our best to make sure that happens, because that is where the magic happens, where great ideas really start to grow. You get that synergy that you don't have if there's just 3 in the room, if there's 12 in the room, if that many more ideas, they're all focusing on the same standards. And so that's really when it becomes super powerful.
And with the wellness centers and with the calm corners and the teachers' awareness of social emotional issues, do you feel like most of our students' needs are getting addressed at this point? Or do you still feel like there's students who are not feeling like they're part of our community, who are still not having their needs met?
Well, I would like to think they're getting their needs met, but to be realistic, we're just trying our very best. What we need to know is all of the information that might be out there, and it might be left on the playground. So that information doesn't help us when we don't know about it.
Right.
It might be left in the classroom, also doesn't help us if we need to know about it. So things like that, things that a wellness counselor can help us articulate what's happening either outside in the multipurpose room or in the classroom or on the playground, will help us determine whether or not those needs are being met. But again, that's another constant conversation that you have with parents. Our whole team is always trying to figure out what is working for any one particular student.
I think all of us last year when we had the Healthy Kids Survey were pretty disappointed in the numbers that we saw, and really want to make sure each of our sites is working to address and really find those students who are experiencing the difficulties that were expressed in the Healthy Kids Survey. And I know it's really hard, right? But it's a big goal for us. It's really something we need to work on.
And I think when students come, it's always so fluid when we think about behavior and when we think about just even showing up every single day, and whatever a kid brings in their backpack physically and literally is very different from metaphorically what they're carrying with them as they show up every day. So sometimes, like Patsy was saying, some things are really visible to us and we can kind of help navigate when things are really obvious and kind of brought to our table. It's those nuances of what you're speaking to in terms of helping us kind of unpack and knowing who to reach out to, knowing how to reach out to them. But I think it always starts with relationships, and that's what our staff is so strong at, is building relationships with students, and that we can have those relationships so that we can be able to identify, or we get that sense. Teachers always have that great sense, like something's off today, or something, if you notice a trend in patterns of behaviors over a couple of days, immediately something's off, or,
Right.
So again, it's always fluid. So of course we'd love to say like, yes.
No, I understand, but I'm just,
But I do want to echo that TK8, I think the teachers are super committed to, communicating if there's an issue or anything that bubbles up that feels irregular, or that feels like there's a kid potentially in crisis or even just struggling. Really good at communicating. And I think we were talking about some of the structures we've put in place, like the Google form, teachers can use, and the SRT, the student response team process that we have at OIS, where we're meeting with teachers every week, just for 15 minutes a week, and going over the kids and making sure everybody is supported. And that's with counselors as well.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And hopefully we'll see it reflected in our next set of healthy surveys in the next, probably takes a year or 2 or 3, but
I think we're still seeing the effects of the COVID years,
Mhm.
those surveys. And our 7th grade science teachers gave the Healthy Kids survey today.
Oh, they did, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Maple mentioned the pulse survey, and that's just a super short survey.
Right,
that
right.
Every student got to answer 5 quick questions. And it's another example of a formative assessment, so
Right.
that we can do something about it. So classes and teachers got a chance to take a look at their class and determine, oh my gosh, didn't realize that that particular student didn't like school.
Right.
So just to know that there's a little bit of something going on in there gives
Right.
us a little more information than we might have otherwise.
that's really helpful, yeah.
Yeah, I love the use of the pulse surveys, and I hope that it
Excuse me.
continues throughout the school year as well. So, I mean,
That's the plan.
Right,
Taking the pulse.
Yes.
right.
Great.
And I appreciate the attention to differentiation. It's been a big
Yes.
thing
Yes.
I've raised since I started on the board in 2016, and I think it's really important. And I have noticed what Eric pointed out in his survey, that yes, we have most of our students meeting or exceeding standards, but I'm always curious about the cohorts too. We want to see the cohorts to continue to move forward and to improve, and to not be swapping kids who might be near the line. Oh, this one, dropped low, and this one, but that everyone is sort of moving up. And so I look forward to looking at that kind of data as we have more of it, as we're getting past COVID. I think it really helps us understand and make sure we're not losing students through, because everything looks so good. So we don't need to really, worry about each individual student. Thank you for bringing that to us.
Great, thank you. I don't see any public comment on this item. No, not on the side. Thank you. This item is on for action. Again, thank you so much for all of your work on this and for being here tonight to share and answer all of our questions. Is there a motion to approve the single plans for student achievement?
Sure, this is Cara. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the single plans for student achievement.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, moving into our next action item, Wagner Ranch Nature Area reopening and budget plan. You have a card, yeah, just go ahead and pass it down the table. Thank you.
I'm trying to, okay. Hi. Okay, so we're done quite a bit of updates actually on the nature area. So tonight, we'll very briefly just touch upon if there's any questions around the nature area property or the current status. But really the focus of this evening is just mainly on the budget, on the legislative appropriation of the budget, and the proposed budget and the process, and then the reopening and the next steps. So with that, what we're talking about is there are three specific areas in the property. So it is just under 19 acres of the property right next to the Wagner Ranch Elementary School. And I specifically talk about there's a garden next to the school, which is the Wagner Ranch School Garden. And I say it's fenced in because it actually plays a role in how we reopened it. And then it's sort of concentric circles. The next circle out is the nature area garden, which is also fenced in. And then there's the wide open nature area. We've also, I just wanted to highlight, because it is part of the budget, that we have in the past, and not since the closure, nature area has had outdoor education, which has served the Orinda students. And we've had field trips there, hands-on experiential educational opportunities. And it's really served our elementary school students. During the school year, they've taken field trips in different grade levels. And then summer camps have been run by the Friends of the Nature Area. We have in the past, prior to Storm, we've been actually talking about expanding these opportunities to our middle school students and schools in other districts. But we just then reached a screeching halt, which brings us to the current status of the property. So the nature area suffered really significant damage during the last winter storms. It was closed due to safety concerns, mainly downed trees and falling trees, which actually still to this day are falling. And then paths that are eroded and washed away. And then we determined, and it's really Stuart Watson and myself that have been out there, and then East Bay Trees has gone out there with us as well to determine what kind of funding is necessary, but it's significant funding that was determined to be necessary to actually reopen it to visitors and volunteers. So where are we, the reopening plans? And that's a couple of months ago, I think that back in August or no, September, we brought sort of that we would phase in the reopening of the property. And that's where the fencing comes into place, because we were advised due to liability and safety that we can reopen the areas that were fenced in. So the garden itself, the Wagner Ranch School Garden, was reopened in August prior to the start of the school year. And it was funded by the Wagner Ranch Parent Club. And when I say funded, the reopening was funded. It was the trimming of the trees and the cutting of the brush kind of nearby so the students can be in there. And I was just there last week, and all sorts of students were in there studying and journaling and with arms like to their shoulders in dirt. So it was really great to see. And then the nature area garden was reopened mid-October, and that was mainly funded by the Boystein charity, and about an amount of about the $27,000 or so, where they founded that reopening of the tree, cutting of the trees, trimming, and then just a kind of a little bit of an area around it. And we get weekly updates from Mr. Barrett about how many volunteers are in there on Sundays, and some great pictures today from volunteers doing the work, high school students and so on, and adult volunteers kind of doing the work that didn't get done, you know, the other work that the volunteers can do, which is great. And then the rest of the nature area remains closed because of the cost, which brings me to what we're here actually this evening about. So back in April of 2022, so about a year and a half ago, we were actually made aware, staff was made aware through the Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Kahan's office that there was a possibility of obtaining funding for the nature area to preserve and protect it as a nature area. And what we did was we wrote a request, as we were instructed to do, and to kind of go for it with regards to the budget on what it would take to actually preserve the nature area, make it safe and maintained. So we submitted a budget request in the amount of $4.5 million at that time. And that was actually brought in front of the board as an approved, for approval of kind of a budget draft. When we submitted the budget, it was sadly denied in full entirety. So the original request was not funded. So we moved on with our lives. And suddenly we were actually notified this summer that the Office of Assembly Member actually submitted that request again. And the district was actually awarded $1.5 million of the originally requested budget. So we met recently, kind of in a President Wiener, myself, a couple of staff members from and a mayor, Inga Miller, and so on, in a meeting to see how we could do this. What are their goals of the Assembly Member? And then I met with the Assembly Member staff members last week, and then Eve and Hillary are the liaisons from the boards to the nature area. So we actually met around the budget as well and sort of figure out how do we go from the 4.5 million, add the inflation and the damage of the storm, and lower the revenue. So we adjusted the budget based on kind of the established goal and the current needs. So I just wanted to present that there were goals presented to us when we met with the Assembly Member because it is out of the appropriation from the state and it was through her office. And their stated goals, which we agree with as well, their common goals, were to preserve and protect the nature area as the nature area. It was really opening the nature area for student use. So we want to make sure and get the students back in there as soon as possible for their field trip and that educational programming and camps. And then also opening the nature area for community use, for volunteers, community access, and then including those large-scale festivals.
What are large-scale festivals?
They had like the olive, the festival in
Okay.
there, so things like that, yeah. I'm sorry?
Wildlife festival.
Sure, yeah. So 1.5 million will be allocated to the district to accomplish the above goals as much as we can. And then we were told the funding will be available to the district. First it was January, maybe February 2024. So that's when we'll actually should have the money. So prior to that, don't have the dollars, but we can actually start some process so that we can avoid the delays if possible. So this is the budget that was originally requested and our proposals. I'm just trying to make it bigger, but sorry, then I lose the screen.
It's okay.
So you're okay? Okay. All right. So I included everything that I just wanted to show the board what we had originally had in a plan. So the first column in white is what originally we planned on funding with $4.5 million. And so one of the big things was actually having like a visitor center, and by visitor center, not like a I think a visitor center where you go and like get a map, but we're talking like educational classrooms, restrooms, because there are no restrooms. There's porta potty, but no restrooms at the, so students that are in camps and classrooms there, they're actually walking away from the nature area, going to the NPR at the school. We're going to really do a full upgrade and make sure that we have ADA compliant pathways across the entire property. And then wanted to ensure funding of our outdoor education, like a coordinator on staff that could take BLAs on and actually take charge on the curriculum and so on for the district programming. There was nature pathway signage displays, redoing of the outdoor kitchen, outdoor classroom. There's a lot of fencing needs out there, so wanted to help out with the fencing that's already there, but just really redoing some of it, installing a shade canopy, garden upgrades, and so on. At that time, we did not have budget allocated for tree removal and trimming or ongoing maintenance. So in the green is our current general proposal. I will have to say that this is based on the safety of the tree removal and trimming is actually a guesstimate by the East Bay Trees, as are the pathway upgrades. The rest of it is really based on the experience from Stuart Watson, our director of facilities. But other than that, we would need to really get true estimates from companies that would do this. So we've eliminated the visitor education center out of the proposal. The restrooms, there are different restrooms that are being explored. So those that are without the utilities, or seeing how we can possibly do it.
Those would be like fancier porta potties?
Yeah, there are those like that you would see at a campground. Stuart has all sorts of feelings about those with regards to what they bring in. But we just felt that allocating any more towards that would really diminish sort of out of the 1.5 million. We wouldn't be able to achieve kind of the three goals that are out there if we were to go like to $500,000, right? So if we're going to install something, it would not be able to be significantly more than this.
I mean, it's a nature area, so restrooms that were similar to other camping sorts of things might be appropriate.
We just have to look at, examine it. The ADA compliant pathways, if you look at first down below in the safety pathways, there are some pathways that are completely eroded or washed away. So if there's a significant portion submitted to those, and then we can upgrade some others, those that are actually still there. Limiting down a little bit of the educator coordinator, but still, so it wouldn't be 5 years. But also exploring what does that look like for collaboration with other agencies, like collaboration with the city or Parks and Rec, or other agencies. What does that look like for the collaboration? The fence would just be the minimal repair right now of what is broken, as opposed to doing full repair. So that's why the fencing went down from 100 to 10,000, but really still investing, I'm sorry, I skipped over into the kitchen and the outdoor classroom. No signage, no displays, no canopy, so using shade canopy, really using the natural shade. And then the garden upgrades, and we're talking still towards contributing towards the school garden and the nature garden, because there's still more work to be done there. And then really, I already mentioned safety of the tree removal, safety of the pathways upgrades. So that 350,000 combined there is really to reopen the nature area.
So that's what you have to do
Safety
first.
issues really would have to be done first. We don't have a budget right in our district budget in general fund for maintenance of the nature area. So that's really the addition of that last item is could we allocate something in this budget over the next 5 years, which is $50,000 in ongoing maintenance, so that we're not maybe can avoid some of the store damage that was done this year. Can we allocate some of it towards either tree trimming, fire abatement, things like that? Some of these damages, because otherwise this funding is one-time money. So that's the proposed budget, and I'll come back to that slide. I just want to sort of see what we're asking for. So it's based on estimates, as I mentioned. All costs will need to be updated based on true quotes. The first steps would be in accomplishing of the goals is we have to ensure the safety of the nature area. Otherwise, nothing can be accomplished. We can't build anything. We don't know what the exact funding is. So to ensure the safety of the nature area, we actually we can't just find a vendor. Because it goes over a certain amount of dollars, we actually have to issue a request for proposal or RFP, which is really a lengthy process. By the time that is legally written, evaluated, issued, promoted, it takes some time, and then vendors need to be secured. So, and then we also would have to secure a contractor to repair the damages and pathways. So as I mentioned earlier, funding, funds are allocated in sometimes around January, February. Mika, in the business office, there would be a designated account within our budget that is very specific for these revenues and expenditures associated just with these funds.
A separate fund, like we have Fund 40 or,
Yeah, right. So it's a different enterprise fund. Yeah. Staff and board I'm not using the right word enterprise. I'll just say separate fund. I'm sorry, Mika. Staff and board will work with Assembly Member Rebecca Barkayan to ensure the goal of protecting and preserving. So that is because how would we ensure protection and preserving? So working with their staff, and does that look like a board resolution? Does it look like an MOU? It's not in full, it's not designated as an open space. What does that look like? So that's actually work that still needs to be done.
It's kind of the open question here, so that's not really on.
That's not for the action.
For action
right.
tonight.
It's just kind of a next step. So really our process right now is what we're recommending this evening is we really would like to begin this process of the timely RFP. We know that we can't pay for anything or secure anything until we have the funds, but we also know that the fund that it's going to be allocated to us, right? So RFP process entails development of legal documents, advertisement, interviews. So we're thinking that probably takes about 6 to 8 weeks. So even if we were to start it now, it takes us into January because of the holidays and so on. So should we wait another month? It takes us just another month and so on. So we feel like if we were to start now, it would really be selecting a vendor or a contractor at the time when we're getting the funding and we can hit the ground running as long as the weather and so on
I was
cooperates.
wondering about that because that will put us in the middle of winter.
Well, that will be up to the arborists or the tree people to tell us when is the right time to do it. Staff, so we're recommending this evening a general approval for the sort of concept of the budget, unless you see something that's on there that you really don't agree with, but would really also like the kind of moving forward with the issuing of the RFP. So really approval of that safety moving forward so we can move forward with the reopening of the nature area or securing those funds for the safety pieces. And then we would continue then as starting to examine the true cost and the quotes of the rest of the items.
I had a question. The nature area is 19 acres and some of it is more wild than others.
Sure.
Is there any sort of priority to, sort of getting that main area cleared and open?
The only thing is if we can't fence it, we can't let people, and that's the issue. So it's kind of an all or nothing is how it's been.
I see. So you can't temporarily fence off.
Unless we did temporary fencing. And we could look at that.
Possibly, yeah, just
Yeah, we could potentially
Yeah,
look into
examine
that,
that.
yeah.
the thought.
So I don't know, we have about 8 public comments here. I don't know if the board is amenable to listening to these public comments before we do our own questions.
Let's do that.
Okay, let's go ahead with that. And I don't have any particular order to these, so unless there's a particular person that was intending to speak first on behalf of the board, or on behalf of the Friends and the other members of the community, I'm just gonna go ahead.
I'm happy to go first.
Okay.
Rebecca Dahlberg.
Okay, great. So Rebecca Dahlberg.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, and then on deck, I will have, I'm sorry if
Kathy
I'm,
Barrett? Oh, well, we have certain FONA members here to speak as a group, so you want us to.
yeah, so why don't you all,
As a group, it's 5 minutes.
and a group, if you're gonna be as a group, that is 5 minutes.
Right.
Okay,
Great.
so then why don't you all come up, so then we can just have those 5 minutes
Okay,
together.
excellent. So Kathy Barrett, Reg Barrett,
Steve Danziger.
Steve Danziger, everyone from our board
Okay.
tonight. Our president, Erica Baines, who you all probably know, is on a mission with her physician husband. They do medical care, doctor's rep orders, kind of stuff. And so she's in India right now. Otherwise, she would certainly be here. So first of all, we want to thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight and speak with you. We really appreciate the work, Aida, of getting that application or request in for the grant. And it's just fantastic that it came through in part. And I just wanted to say, I have 2 comments or 2 asks, if you will. As you all know, the FONA group has been taking care of the nature area for 40 years, 40 plus years. So our knowledge is vast and deep. And we're a little concerned that we weren't consulted on the budget line items. We have questions about where certain dollar figures came from, and are things like a kitchen upgrade really necessary? So we would love to have a seat at the table talking about these things, because we think we can bring something with our knowledge base as you discuss the different issues and line items. And so we're requesting, seat at the table if that were possible. And the other thing is, we really don't know the parameters of this grant. Is there any documentation on the grant? Do we know what specifically the grant covers in detail? Does anyone know the answer to that question?
I don't think we're.
So unfortunately, we're not able to respond to
Oh, I
public
see.
comment.
Okay. Okay, so that's a question. If there were a document that could be shared with us, we would love to see it so we could be better informed about what this windfall might be able to cover and what it might not be able to cover. So with that, I'm going to hand things off to Kathy Barrett.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here tonight. We're very thankful. I'm Kathy Barrett, and on behalf of the Friends of the Orinda Nature Area, we are very, very pleased, and personally seeing restrooms there means a whole lot for folks who've been working there for years and years and years. And we were just in Point Grey Station, and there are public restrooms there that are very nice but not glamorous in any way and might be able to fit your minuscule budget there. So just, I'm really so happy to be speaking with you and thanking you and looking forward to what will come from here. And Steve Danziger and Reg have been out there, thanks to Stuart, with all of these volunteers doing amazing work this last month.
I'm gonna go last. Okay. Hi, I'm Steve Danziger, member of the board, 30-year Orinda resident, and both my boys went through OUSD. Want to thank you for all your efforts in getting this going. We're really excited for the reopening. And we understand that this is a proposed budget and that changes may occur. I'm going to just skip to the ending, so some other things. While I understand the vital need to spend on infrastructure, the nature area is a place for environmental and cultural education. And in 2009, OUSD stopped funding nature education there. What I would like to see is that OUSD allocate some funds in the future budgets outside of this grant for the educational components at the nature area and to make this part of your curriculum. And FONA looks forward to working in partnership with you on being the stewards of this natural treasure, which we're fortunate to have in our community.
I may go over a little bit, but I came here in 1950, so I have a lot of perspective on how things are going, and I want to congratulate you on how well things are going in the Orinda School District these days compared to when I started in Glorietta in the 3rd grade. And somebody asked me one time, what are the things that you remember most about your education in Orinda? I said, the thing I remember most is being paddled. I was paddled by both the superintendent chief and the I guess he was the coach. But anyway, I'll never forget that. I can remember that very clearly. And they simply, in front of the entire school, bend over, grab your ankles, wow. And I didn't cry, but that hurt like hell. So I remember that very well. So things have changed. And I congratulate you for that. When I asked my kids, when I retired, what did you remember most about your grade school education? They said the days at the nature area, no question about it. And so I said, okay, when I retired, I taught for 40 years at UC Berkeley in the Department of Environmental Education, Environmental Science, Policy, and Management. I don't know why they have to have such a long time. But anyway, I have a lot of expertise in all of this. And I would like to be at the table a little bit more. I took care of those trails. I fixed them, everything that needed to be done out of my own pocket. Never cost anybody anything. I'd still like to be involved. And I think I have expertise to provide. So I'm offering free expertise on whatever you're trying to do down there.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker on this item, Michael Finnegan.
Yes, that's right.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Board. I appreciate it. My name is Michael Finnegan. I'm with Orinda Troop 303. So I'm very excited to be here. And when I heard about the reopening efforts for Wagner Ranch, I was super pleased. We got a chance as a troop to march in the parade with tourists and the rest of the folks with FONA and the Friends of Orinda Creek. So I only have a couple comments, right? They're all positive, by the way. And so we represent lots of young hands and lots of young legs and feet to move lots of gravel and wood chips, which we've done for hundreds of hours at Wagner Ranch. And we've had well over 10 to 15 Eagle projects that all have over 100 hours each. So we put in a good portion of 1,000 or more hours into Wagner Ranch. Not like our friends of nature who have put multiple years, but for the few years that I've been affiliated with 303, there's a lot that goes through that. So I know these numbers seem really high and we see them as expenses, but I want to encourage you to think of them more of an investment to these folks who really honor nature and the folks who really honor conservation, because this is our earth and we're stewards. So I want to encourage you to think of it in those terms because that's really where the heart grows. And so the other comment that I want to say is this. It's on the second part of the budget piece. I want you to think of rounding up, not that Monsanto stuff, but rounding up the budget and really try to think about how to make it work. And we want to present how we can help you with some of that labor portion of it. Maybe consider emergency taking care of some of those fallen trees so you can get some hands in there to move the gravel, to move the things, make it ADA compliant in the areas where you need to. I love the idea about a temporary area that you can work under that to get things moving. And maybe you can find a way to partial some things up under an emergency standpoint, so maybe you don't have to go to RFP, but you know that business better than I do. So I just want to say thank you for the time, and with 43 seconds, I'm gonna give it so thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, I believe we have a student, Camille. You want to state your name for us?
My name is Camille Gabriel. I'm a fifth grader at Wagner Ranch Elementary School. When I was in third grade, Miss Spindler, our garden teacher, guided my class through a walking tour of the nature area. Before that, I didn't realize how many living things inhabited it. I learned about the refrigerator tree and that when you touch it, it feels cold because of the water flowing through the hollow branches. Last year, when I was in fourth grade, my class did our science experiments and tests in the nature area. We were testing how much the water level rose in the creek. I know this was fun for me and many of my classmates. It was a break from sitting in the classroom all day, but it was also an opportunity to experience all the nature. Also, when I was in fourth grade, everyone was looking forward to Rancho Day. Sadly, our class didn't get to have it because the nature area closed, but I hope that future fourth graders will get to experience this, even if my class didn't. Students like me have been wondering what will happen to the nature area in the future. The nature area needs long-term care. I hope that the funds the district will receive will be used to restore the health of all the plants and animals in the nature area. Thank you for listening.
Great. Next up, we have Christine.
Josephine.
Oh, sorry, Josephine. Okay.
I'm Josephine Sabulbro. I'm a parent volunteer for FONA, as well as I have 3 different emails, so I'll just summarize it from students. And in summary, we really have been a part of Wagner Ranch Nature Area since probably my kid was in first grade kindergarten, and she's now 17. Like all of you, you've had kids that have gone through the programs. And I just have to say, you know, this is a gem of a property. It sparked like the interest in science. It sparked the interest in students wanting to go on and, you know, continue their college education. I have a student who's now at Franklin and Marshall. Her name is Alexandra, and she's not my student, but she specifically said this is one of the gems that has sparked her interest in becoming a pre-med student. I have a student who would have known she wants to be a neuroscientist, and that was prompted by Taurus's education as well as the whole Wagner Ranch experience. And I think, you know, with the Boy Scouts, with the Girl Scouts, my daughter was a daisy. She started off with Christine's daughter. And these are kids that go through this whole experience. We want to make sure that we can have continuation of Wagner Ranch in perpetuity, having funding, and that we also plan for rainy day storms in the future. So, you know, we got lucky with 1.5 million for this round, but how about in perpetuity? What are we doing about that? And so I hope that we can look and explore. There are lots of grants out there. There are lots of environmental opportunities to partner with, you know, whether or not it's a huge organization that sponsors environmental stewardship. I think that we have the opportunity to continue to educate over 12,000 students is what I've heard. And since 1970, we've been educating students throughout the years. So I would just like to thank you. FONA has done all this incredible work, and also with all of you supporting the Orinda School District. I hope that you can look at an actual budget item for FONA in the future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I had you listed as well, I
Yes.
believe, so I don't know.
Taurus asked if I could read her letter. She couldn't be here tonight. She's on virtually, but basically you all know Taurus Yeager, and I guess this is a separate.
So I just have the one card for you, so
This is
that's,
my other card. Okay.
okay, well, that's fine. We'll just go ahead and have you
So
read
this
this.
is
Fran.
Taurus is, as you know, Taurus is the naturalist. She's been the educator there forever. The kids love her, as well as her eliciting interest in just the environmental stewardship throughout, La Orinda. She's asking here, I am so pleased that Rebecca Barracon was able to secure 1.5 million for the work that needs to be completed at the Nature for reopening. I know there are trees and trails that need to be improved for safety. I hope also that there is funding for the educational benefits. The nature area can offer lessons in cultural history, biology, botany, anthropology, biodiversity, gardening, etc. Students need to learn outside of the four walls of a classroom. It is the real classroom. I'm hoping that I could be rehired as a district naturalist moving forward. I love teaching. I have my California teaching credential and master's in environmental education and 57 years of teaching experience. 45 of those years were at the nature area. And she mentions about her pension, but that she's really wanting and willing to support the nature area in her educational role for the amount that you're all aware of. So that's the message from Taurus. But I just want to emphasize that there's so many students out there that couldn't be here tonight, but they've all sent me emails saying, please let the district and the board of trustees know that we really want to continue and keep funding because we don't really necessarily have it in black and white that FONA has an actual budget item to keep and maintain this gem.
Okay,
So
thank you. Do you mind passing
Yes.
that card?
Yes, and these are all my comments.
Okay,
Thank you very
thank you. And then our last speaker tonight is Christine.
Is it okay if I sit?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Christine Gatzimaris. I came here today for a couple reasons. One hat that I wear is I'm a liaison to the nature area from the National Charity League. But it's still confusing for community members if it's really open. We heard and saw that in the newspaper that it was open and we could start volunteering, but I asked to volunteer and wasn't really given any protocol. I called Stuart and said, hey, when can we volunteer? And I didn't really get a response as to when we could actually start volunteering. So I'd really encourage the board to maybe announce what the hours are, what the protocol is to volunteer, because other than the members of the board of the FONA, the larger community has not been invited back in. So we need to figure that out. The second thing I'd like to point out is there was so much great talk today about wellness. I wanted to kind of bring it to your attention that the nature areas always has been the wellness center on the weekends. I think that you're mainly looking at the nature area in terms of curriculum, and I really see it as a mental health space. I don't know why I'm upset, but so in my volunteer jobs over the last 10 years, I've seen kids in crisis in that space on the weekends. And it makes me upset that it's still closed. So I brought up ideas like the temporary fence, but I never received a reply back. I think it's a really important place for a lot of kids. I think you know from the survey, there's a lot of kids just down that are in crisis. And it's great to address those needs during school hours. I think you're completely missing the boat on why that place is so important to so many kids and families.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate all the comments that we've heard tonight. I mean, and the very heartfelt historical comments as well. It means a lot to us, to myself as a board member. It's kind of hard to go from that to talking about numbers purely. And, I think part of what we've heard tonight is that, it really isn't just about the budget. It's about, how we're overall, what our plans are with that space and our partnership with the Friends, and, the work that we've all done together, and, appreciating the support of our assembly member in bringing this back when we thought we didn't